name is Jenna and today I'm here to do both my May and June wrap-ups as well as my July TBR. Because I only managed to read 3 books in May and I was kind of going through a lot of stuff with university and it was very busy and hard for me to film, I kind of just decided that I would incorporate my May wrap-up in with my June wrap-up. And in June I managed to read 4 books. So I have 7 books to show you guys today for my wrap-up, and then I have a bunch of books to show you for my TBR. And sadly, all but one of those books is a uni book, and that just, oh no wait, sorry, all but 2 of those books are uni books, and it just depresses me. I have to read, okay, I figured it out. So at university next semester I'm taking 4 classes. I'm taking a class in 21st century literature in which I think I have to read, I think it's 5 or 6 novels, and then I'm taking another creative writing class where I have to read another 3 novels, and I'm taking a class in crime fiction where I have to read 4 novels. So I have to read a lot of novels for classes next semester, so I'm getting a head start now during the uni break because it's not gonna happen otherwise. Jumping straight into my May wrap up, the first book that I managed to finish in May was actually A Court of Blings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. I don't have my physical copy of this book at the moment because I gave it to my grandmother who is, you know, really loves the series, and I thought, hey, read this, read the last book, you'll love it, you'll cry, maybe, I don't know, she's 90, she might not cry. Basically, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was an amazing wrap up to this little trilogy. I cried a lot, I have to say. There was one moment where I was crying so much that my glasses fogged up and I literally couldn't see the page. I had to take a bit of an emotional break after that because I was like, no, need a break, need to know what's happening. But then I decided, I was like, no, I need to know what's going on. I just need to get straight through it, and I did, and it was amazing. I won't go too much into my full thoughts of that one because I did do a full book review which I will leave in the description box below, so if you are interested in what I really thought of the book, then I recommend you check out that video. So after that I was in kind of a massive book hangover, as you can probably imagine, so I decided to get myself back into reading that I would pick up a book that I used to read a lot as a kid, and that is The Naughtiest Girl in the School by Enid Blyton. Basically this book just follows a girl named Elizabeth Allen who is an absolute terror at home. She is complete snob, very, what's the word? She's very, I don't know what the word is, we're just gonna call her snobby, but that's not quite it. Spoiled. She's very spoiled, that's the word. So she's an only child, she's very spoiled, and so her parents decide to send her away to a boarding school while they are on a trip. And so she goes to this school with the intent that she is going to be as naughty as she possibly can so that they will send her home. And what sort of follows is her, you know, learning to live with other children and be in school and all this sort of thing. And I absolutely love it because it's something really, I think because I read it so much as a kid, it was really special to me. And also the fact that it's set, you know, back in, like, I think it's set in the 1920s or something, which is awesome because that's sort of what they were doing at that time. So I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars because it was such an adorable little read. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. It definitely helped kick me out of my reading slump, and I just owe a lot to these books and I love them, and eventually at some point this year I want to read the other 2 books in this little trilogy as well. And the last book that I read in May was Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Avatelli. I have to say I did not mean to finish this book as quickly as I did. I think I read it over like 2 days. I literally was reading until, I think I was reading till like 1 AM, and then I went, no, I have a test tomorrow, I need to put the book down. I put it down, turned out my light, and 5 minutes later the light was back on, the book was back in my hands because I just needed to know what was going on. So I gave this one 5 stars, which is really unusual for me because I am not a fan of contemporaries at all, but this book had me hooked from the get-go. Oh my goodness, it had such an amazing premise. The characters were so well thought out and so diverse. I loved every single one of them. I just wanted to know what was going on. The mystery that was kind of wrapped through it was really intriguing. I did guess who Blue was, but for me that was half the fun because I wanted to see that I was right, and I was. So thank you very much. So I actually only picked this one up because I knew it was going to be turned into a movie and that Nick Robinson was starring in it, and I'm a huge fan of his, and now I am so unbelievably excited to see this movie because the book was just so good. So moving on to what I read in June, the first book that I read was actually the YA Circle Book Club's June Book of the Month, and that was Flame in the Mist by Renee Ardier. Unfortunately, I was really disappointed with this book. I only ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it had so much more potential than what I was given. So this one is a very loose Mulan retelling, although now having read it, I would not class it as a Mulan retelling at all, even a very loose one. For me, it had like nothing to do with it at all. It was kind of a completely different story. The only thing that was the same is a girl dressed up as a boy. So this one, I found that Renee's writing is very prose-like, and I'm really not a fan of that. She described everything in such immaculate detail that it really didn't leave much to the imagination, and I don't like that as much. I like to be able to imagine certain things. Halfway through this book, they kind of throw out some magic, and I went, oh yeah, there's meant to be magic in this book, because up until that point, we'd seen nothing, and I'd completely forgotten it was supposed to be there. So I think that either, you know, magic needed to be more prominent, or it just needed to not be there at all. Apart from that, I also found that the characters weren't very enjoyable. I really didn't like many of them at all. But in saying that, I am sort of curious to see how this duology wraps up, so I might pick up the sequel, but I also may not because I really wasn't very impressed with this book. I also managed to finish an audiobook this month, and that was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling, read by Stephen Fry. So this is the first time that I've been reading the audiobooks because I wanted to reread the books this year, but I didn't want to read the physical copies just because I had other stuff to read. So I've been using the audiobooks to fall asleep to. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, obviously, not only because it is Harry Potter, but also because the audiobook is so fantastic. Stephen Fry does an incredible job. It was so much fun to get to hear the story read to me and to really get to imagine it in my head, and I just really enjoyed it, and I will definitely be continuing on with the audiobooks of this series. The last 2 books that I read in the month of June were part of the same series, and that is Glimmer and Shadow Spell by Jenna Black. These books have been on my TBR for years. This book actually came out in 2009, and I believe that is actually when I picked it up and read it for the first time, so definitely been on my radar for a very, very long time, and I'm only now finally getting around to reading them. It's really funny because if you go back through my wrap-ups and TBRs that I've done like over the past year, the amount of times these books have shown up on the TBR pile is ridiculous. Never once have they shown up on the wrap-up pile, so I'm really happy that I've finally gotten around to reading them. So the book follows a girl named Dana, and she has been living in America with her mother, who is an alcoholic. She decides to run away from her mother and go and find her father, who is living in Avalon, which is basically a place in England where the human world and the magical world collide. As soon as she arrives, she finds herself drawn into this political game because there are these people trying to kill her, and her dad is kind of a political figure and her aunt is crazy, and she meets these kids, and it's all a whirlwind. So I gave both of these books a 3 out of 5 stars, and honestly I am just reading them because I want to say that I've read them, because they've been on my shelf for too long, and I'm just at that point where, you know, sometimes you get to that point where you're like, this book has been on my shelf for a million years, I just need to read it, and then you read it and it's not that great, but it's part of a series and you're like, oh, okay, guess I have to read the whole series now. Basically that's what's happening to me with these books. So back in 2009 when I first read Glimmer, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was the best. I was in a massive fairy kick and it was definitely fulfilling that for me. Now though, I see that this book has a lot of problems. First and foremost, that insta-love. Oh my goodness, that insta-love is painful. I mean, painful to watch. So it's hard to remember, but Dana is actually only 16 years old, and she literally hops on a plane and runs away to England to meet up with her dad that she's spoken to a handful of times on the phone. I didn't find that very realistic, but whatever, we'll just go with it. But Dana is the most hopeless protagonist I think I have ever sort of read about. She literally just falls over any guy that comes near her, and I'm just like, why? Be your own girl, you know, whatever. I mean, the story is interesting enough, like the way that she discovers she is a fairy walker, which means that she can walk between Avalon and the human world, which I thought was really interesting, but apart from that, I'm just like, nah. The insta-love really, really bugged me. And then we get to Shadow Spell, and Shadow Spell not only still has insta-love, okay, it involves a love a love pentagon. It involves a love pentagon, and I mean, a love triangle is bad enough, but a love pentagon? Really? Really? It's basically, like I said in the first book, Dana kind of falls over any guy that, you know, she sees, and in this one we're introduced to a new guy, which turns out to be a new love interest, and I just, I don't know, man. There's just something about these books that I don't know how to feel. I am so on the fence about them. I don't know. I really don't. So now moving on to the books that I'm planning on reading in July. The first book I'm planning on reading is Siren Song by Jenna Black. This is the third and final book in the Fairy Walker trilogy. I'm not going to go too much into what it's about, obviously, because massive spoilers, but it follows Dana along her journey, and I'm pretty sure we're meeting another love interest in this book, which is going to turn the love pentagon into a love hexagon, and I can't. I am literally reading this book just to say that I've finished the series. I don't know how I feel about it though, because oh my god, that love, I can't, I really can't. Then I'm going to be reading the YA Circle's July book of the month, and that is Ballad for a Mad Girl by Vicky Wakefield. I don't exactly know what it's about, so I'm just gonna read you guys the blurb because I will suck at summarizing it. Everyone knows 17-year-old Grace Foley is a bit mad. She's not afraid of anything except losing. As part of the feud between two local schools in Swanston, Grace accepts a dangerous challenge. That night she experiences something she can't explain. The funny girl isn't laughing anymore. As she's drawn deeper into the 20-year-old mystery of missing girl Hannah Holt, she can no longer tell what's real or imagined. Is she moving closer to the truth, or is she at risk of losing everyone, including herself? Ooh. Interesting. I don't know. We'll see how this one goes. It sounds interesting enough. I then have to read a bunch of books for university, so I'll just quickly go through the creative writing books because I have them here, and then I have one other book that hasn't arrived yet. I know nothing about any of these books, so I'm not really gonna tell you because I don't think you'd be that interested in them. Anyway, so for creative writing, the first book I have to read is The Clan of the Cave Bear by Jean M. Ale. It's apparently the first in a series, and look at this. This is so big and it's got little writing. I don't understand why literally 500 and something pages. Why? I don't know what it's about. I think it's about back in the Ice Age, and it involves a young girl who ends up being sort of taken in by this clan who worship a bear. I don't know, something like that. It sounds kind of interesting, but it's just so big and intimidating that I really don't want to read it. Next up for creative writing, we had Dead Man's Walk by Larry McMurtry. Again, I know nothing. Oh, it's about a Texas Ranger in the West. We're doing historical fiction this semester, so everything is set like a million years ago, and I don't know how to feel about that. Then the last book for creative writing is The Secret River by Kate Grenville, and this one is, oh, this one's in London in 1806. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Hold on, it's set in Australia. Okay, he was in London in 1806, and then he gets transported to New South Wales because he committed a crime and is sent. Ooh, this is about a convict. Interesting. Okay, this one actually might be interesting. I'm kind of keen to pick this one up. And then my book for my 21st century literature class is a book called Island Home by Tim Winton. I think this one is a memoir of his life in Australia. Not really sure, but I think that's what it's about. So I don't know. Next month's wrap up is going to be so boring because it's going to be full of uni books. So there you have it. That was the 3 books that I read in May, the 4 books I read in June, and the 4 books that I'm planning on reading in, 6 books I'm planning on reading in July. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section below if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. I would love to know. If you like this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.